One thing, and some things that you normally do very well goes very bad. Okay.
Absolutely. And your score goes up for the first couple of rounds until that uncomfortable starts to become comfortable, and then ultimately the end result is that obviously your score should hopefully drop down below, but I'm not a golfer, so I won't judge anyone in their ability to do that or not do that. So again, be okay with implementing something new, being open to something new, and it's okay if it feels a little bit uncomfortable at first when you go back on Monday and start to do some of these things, because until that uncomfortable becomes comfortable again, it's just going to mess up your game a little bit, but that's okay. So what we're going to talk about today is really the hidden candidate. So this study discussed that you see on here, there's really a few types of candidates that we deal with. There's three buckets. The first bucket are those ones that are actively looking. They'll probably answer the call, they'll talk to you at any moment, and they'll probably talk to every other recruiter who gives them a call as well. The third bucket is those who are the 13% can't envision changing jobs under really any circumstance. And what that leaves us with is about 70% that are open to considering an opportunity if the right opportunity came to them. And so what we're going to talk about today is not that first category, that actively looking for a position category. We're going to talk about how to elevate your game with that second 60%, 70%, and then possibly even how to get in the door with that other 13%. So the first thing that we're going to go through is a quick tip. It has to do with LinkedIn. Everybody hands LinkedIn on it. Yes, no-ish. Okay. So some of you guys might have a stellar profile. Some of you guys might know what it is, but have not yet chosen to utilize it. And some of you guys might have been signed up, but you forgot your password somewhere in there, and it's got one connection when people link to you. What I want to encourage you guys to do with this one, this is going to be a quick takeaway, it's a quick fix. But I want to encourage you to look at this as a quick fix. There's going to be a lot of other things that we're going to talk about that require a lot more insight and thought and implementation. I do want to give you a couple of specific tactical takeaways, but this is not, to me, the most important tip we're going to go through. However, everybody likes that quick fix, right? You like the one thing that you can go back, implement immediately, and then feel like it's going to be your solution to skyrocketing billing. So we're going to go through this, but recognize that this is indeed a tactical thing that you can implement immediately, but then we're going to go through stuff that has a little bit more meat. So, building your brand, if you guys look up here, you can see that next to my name has my phone number. Why is that important? Because if somebody pulls up my name, I want my contact information to be as easily accessible to them as possible. So they actually don't even have to click on my name to be able to start to dial my phone number. So you see in there I've got Karen Schmidt and then my phone number, and then I've got in my signature underneath I've got Partner Director of Corporate Training and Development. I would encourage you guys to have a little bit of creative flexibility as it relates to your title. Instead of recruiter, executive recruiter. Instead of responsible for, you're the director of. So again, this is going to serve as your commercial. I don't know if you guys have ever picked up the phone and called a candidate who, doesn't let you get past the first couple of sentences before they say no, thank you, not interested, and they hang up, and you think, if you just listen and hear me out, you know that I'm not the one recruiter that you should be hanging up on. And what LinkedIn does is it serves as that tool for people to be able to learn about you on their own time. So in this kind of internet-savvy age that we're in, recognize that when you leave somebody a voicemail, they're going to Google you before they call you back. In fact, when somebody calls me, I typically will reverse look up the number as the phone is dialing so that I can see if it's somebody that I want to talk to or not. Why? It's ridiculous. I'm in a phone business. I should know the value of just picking up the phone and answering that. But again, with all of these tools that your candidates and your clients have at their fingertips, they're probably utilizing those. So no matter how great your voicemail is, recognize that they're probably going to be looking you up before they call you back. And this can serve as your commercial. Even if you're not a big LinkedIn person, people in your marketplaces are. So again, this can be the commercial, and it's up to you to choose how strong, again, and how much you control that commercial that people are seeing of you. So again, we've got Karen Schmidt and then my phone number. We've got whatever. Oh, no. All right. Nope. This is going to be the thing that you guys all remember from this conference, I think. This is the. Okay. There you go. Great. All right. So again, you guys see that I've got my title and I've got my phone number and then I've got my email address. What you also see in there is a little dot. Again, this is going to be tactical, so go with me on this. If you want to insert any kind of symbol, a diamond or a star, anything that just makes this a little bit different, LinkedIn doesn't allow you to do that, but what you can do is go into a Word document, open it up, click Insert Symbol, and write this down if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Open up a Word document, click Insert Symbol, and then pick whatever symbol you want. There's probably a fine line between differentiating yourself and then just being messy and sloppy. But again, you can stick that little circle in there, a triangle, and it's just something that stands out. It's different and it's unique. So remember that you're unique just like everybody else. But again, this can be something that absolutely builds your commercial. So again, don't limit your title to simply your title, and that summary can serve as your commercial. The thing that you just wish that if people heard you out, they would then want to talk to you further. That's the thing that you should put in your summary. So again, recognize that that can be your commercial. And what moves us to our next slide, which is, again, continuing to build your brand. So those applications, just something to think about, if you've got a PowerPoint presentation that has your capabilities presentation on it, you can certainly upload that and have that be something that people look at. If you've got Word documents or anything, PDF that has your case studies or the searches that you've completed, or certainly testimonials, you can add that to your profile as well. So again, recognize that this is a quick fix. So we're going to go from that to some things that maybe have a little bit more meat. Our strategy number 2 is to strengthen your brand. So once we start to build your brand, how can we strengthen that? It's going to come up in just a second. We'll be 2 slides further behind. So if you guys want to follow along with me in your workbook, you can certainly do that. The conceptual issue here, how do we make sure that we stay in front of our audience on a very consistent basis? It's unrealistic that you're going to be able to follow every single candidate every single month. So how do we stay in front of that marketplace? There's a woman in our office who builds $1 million a year in perm placement by herself. And the way that she says that she does that is because she has a strategy like this, that she makes sure every single month her candidates are getting touched by her in some form or fashion. So this can be a blueprint that you guys can start to use to really strengthen your brand and make sure that the candidate who said in January, I'm happy, I'm not interested, you don't call back in March, and of course, surprise, surprise, they're no longer there, they've left because something happened in that 90 days. So again, there's some examples that you see on here. There's obviously calls factored in because nothing takes the place of the phone. You see in February, there's a thing that says a video electromail. A video electromail is something that can be produced by a marketing company or in-house if you have the capabilities. That's basically a 1-minute commercial on yourself, on your organization, maybe on the current search that you're working on, and it comes through the email as a video that starts to play as soon as they open up the email. And to the right, they can click on your testimonials, they can click on your firm website, they can do all of that. Now, if you don't have the capabilities of doing something like that that's as professionally produced, there's a recruiter that I know that went on his company's case sitter trip and was on the beach and filmed a little flip cam around him of the islands that he was near, and then sent that out to his entire candidate pool and said $100 to whoever can tell me where it is that I am right now. And again, it was just a fun way. It doesn't always have to be so serious. It doesn't always have to be about the searches that you're working on. It was just a fun way to stay in front of the market so that if that one candidate 30 days later all of a sudden does need something or does have a friend they want to refer or does have a situation that's changed for themselves, that individual's information is that which is in front of them the soonest. In March, you see a send newsletter. Anybody send a newsletter? Make that a practice. Talk to me about what you put in that, if you're okay. Yes.
I'm a full service. So I do commission and management prior. So my newsletter is very based on decision living birthdays, what month we're in, updated staffing needs. Only puzzling.
Okay, great.
Whatever fits the needs for that month.
Good, perfect. Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, we put together a company newsletter.
Okay.
And share it through our recruiters out to the candidate base. And a lot of times we'll do like an Ask a Recruiter, where one of us will write up an article addressing a particular issue or just matter development in the industry that we're having candidates mention to us. Maybe we feel like we need to remain, they would enjoy reading and learning from. Usually our president will write about something as well, so things like that.
Yeah, I think overall, most recruiters, because we're type A and we're a little bit ADD and we can't really sit still for very long, we have a hard time conceptually wrapping our minds around how am I ever going to fill up enough content to then put together a newsletter and then send it out on a monthly or quarterly or maybe even annual basis. So I want to encourage you guys to not have to be the creator of all of that content, but think through what it is that your candidates care about knowing. So the key to this touch plan is that you don't want to become synonymous with spam, and where they see you so much that they just start to delete because it's all about here's Karen's open positions, here's Karen's open positions. So think about putting material in there that's important for your candidates to know. Things like how to stay viable within your company, or the top 2 things to be prepared for when you go in to ask for a raise, or any industry-relevant article or news or announcements. It can certainly be, here are the last few people that we've placed, here are the last few testimonials that I've received, but think about the value that you can add to your candidates, and the more times you touch them on a monthly basis with things that they care about, it's not only, again, going to put you in the right place at the right time, but you're going to have a higher callback ratio or answering the phone ratio when the last 3 things that they received from you were a newsletter about how to stay viable within their firm, and then the next month was a salary survey about how much people should be making at that level, and then the 3rd month was a video that says, guess what, speech I'm on at this moment. So again, it's just a good way to stay in front of your audience on a consistent basis, but it's unrealistic that we'll be able to call every single one of our candidates every 30 days. This is a great way to make sure that you do so. And again, you can see on here just some other ideas to continue to strengthen your brand and be in the right place at the right time. Okay, the next strategy that I'm going to share with you guys comes from a Big Biller episode that an individual named Nathan Hanks came in and filmed in our office. And Nathan's best year ever was a $3 million personal cash-in year. And one of the things that he shared with us is, are you the best? And when I asked you guys that question, are you the best recruiter in your space? I'm guessing that most of you would say, heck yeah, I'm the best recruiter in my space. Absolutely, right? Because we have that knee-jerk reaction of sell it, and then get off the phone and Google whatever it is that they just said that they needed because we have no idea, but we're going to, of course, going to say, yes, that's me, I'm your person, and then we're going to get off the phone and try to figure out how to learn what that is. So that being said, Nathan's deal, you guys can follow along with me in here. Is to be the best. So when I challenge you to back up just a minute and slow down and maybe be a little bit more realistic about if you actually can say with all confidence that you're the best recruiter in your space, I would bet that probably there's a little spot in the back of your mind or a little birdie on your shoulder that says, hey, I don't know. There might be that one thing that if I had all of you guys lined up that you would just feel like possibly there's somebody else who does something better than you. Maybe there's somebody else who knows on a daily basis what's going on in the marketplace more consistently than you do. Maybe there's somebody who has relationships with some of the companies that you yourself can't get in with. Maybe there's industry terms or verbiage that you've always kind of known, but never really known exactly what it is that it means. Maybe you've never sat desk side with the candidates that you place and know really what a day in the life looks like for them. So I want to pause for just a second and have you guys really reflect and think about if I were to say, are you the best recruiter in your space? If the first knee-jerk is, yes, of course I am, then back up and think, what are those things that actually are still lacking, or those skills that you still don't quite yet have? It might be at a 90%, but it could be at a 98%. I'm not saying that any of you guys are dropping the ball, of course, by any means, but of course there's always that little bit of a gut check to be realistic, and are you truly the best recruiter in your space? And if you can say that with all certainty, awesome. I might want to bring you back down to earth just a little bit, but there's a saying that we use in our office, which is fake it until you make it, but if you keep faking it, you're probably not going to make it. So again, you can certainly act as if in a lot of different situations, but at some point, you've got to take responsibility for those areas that maybe you aren't as confident or proficient in as you should be. So I'm going to give you guys some ideas, and it's always been told to me, things like, well, I don't even know how to build a building, I just need to know how to recruit people to do. Or I don't even know how to program that software, I just need to know what to say to those people to get them on the phone. Absolutely, absolutely. But think about how much more powerful you would be if you also knew the things that your candidates know, or if you also know what a day in the life looks like for them. All right, we're going to go with this. It's going to be what you guys are going to follow along with me on here, because I have no idea what to possess the prompter. Okay, so think about those things, and I'm just giving you guys a little bit of a list of things to kind of get you started. So the thing that maybe you are not as good at as probably you should be is knowing really what is going on in your industry, keeping a finger on the pulse of your industry. Commit to reading 1 article per day for the next 5 days. You don't have to boil the ocean overnight. You can certainly, thank you. Thank thank you.
Yeah.
Get a little closer. Go ahead and take over that responsibility. I'll steal a book from someone who won earlier and give it to you. Okay, so again, if your issue is not being as up on what's going on in your industry, reading an industry article. If you can shadow a candidate, that can be incredibly powerful because you can start to talk to your candidates like this is my example. If you know that they're sitting in front of a computer all day long looking at a certain kind of spreadsheet, you can throw that on the call when the candidate answers the phone and says, I can't talk right now, and you say, yes, I assume that you're probably looking at ABC spreadsheet or ABC software. Or if they say, I can't talk right now, you say, I know you're probably, out on the job site with your hard hat on and, the crane overhead. That's the most generic thing that you could ever say. However, it adds some credibility instantly that differentiates you from another recruiter. So again, if you can't shadow a candidate, you can certainly create a list of questions that will help you understand your responsibilities. Thanks, Jared.
You're welcome.
And you can see on here a list of some of the questions that you could ask if you don't have the ability to go out and shadow and be on site with your candidates. You can certainly ask some of these questions that will give you an idea of what a day in the list looks like. Next slide, Jared, please. So again, through your office, create a list of words. I'm going to throw myself under the bus for a second. Like I said, started working in construction in 2001, and one of the questions I would always ask, because it was on the candidate data sheet that I was given to be using, was, do you have any design, do you have any experience with multi-use projects, multi-use projects? And they would answer, and it's not, I understand the word multi, I understand the word use, so I figured that was probably a pretty straightforward deal. And I assumed that what that meant was that a building was being built with different kinds of materials, like steel and concrete and wood and nails and asbestos or whatever else goes into a building, right? So I used it in that context for probably about a year. And then finally one day somebody said to me that a multi-use building is one that has retail, say, on the bottom, and then apartments and residential over the top. So for a year, I had been using the word in the wrong context. Nobody stopped me. None of my candidates, of course, were going to say, hey, Karen, by the way, you don't know what you're talking about. But what do you think that it did on the other end of the line when that candidate heard me use that word in the wrong context, but of course was going to be too polite to correct me? So if there's those words that you've always kind of faked it until you make it used, go ahead and back up and keep a pad of paper next to you, and then tell them what those words are, and go figure out what they mean so that you're not stuck in that situation that I'm in. So again, if you really are the best, great. If you're not, and you've got a true kind of reflection of yourself, consciously do those things that will make you a little bit of a better recruiter in your space. Our next one is going to be a little bit more interactive. So I know this is a post-lunch crowd. I've done a lot of talking to you. We're going to have this one be a little bit more interactive. So when we talk about, get back to this one second, Jared, thanks for your office. I'll go back to the slide. Yeah, good. When we talk about the next step, when we talk about those candidates that it's just a little bit tougher to recruit, right? Maybe they fall in that third 13%. Maybe they are just the ones that you kind of have to earn the right to talk to. You get past the first, hey, this is Karen, here's why I'm calling you today, and they say, Karen, you seem real nice. And, with all due respect, I just got to tell you I'm happy where I'm at right now. Put me on your schedule to call me back in the next 6 months. And, again, I appreciate your time today. They're not rude. Maybe they're rude. Most of them are not rude, but they do not let you get past that first hello, my name is. What we're going to talk about in this next exercise is what it is that you can say that will keep that door open for a continued conversation and hopefully earn the right to another 3 or 4 or 10 minutes on the phone with them. So what we're going to do, what I want you guys to do is take out a piece of paper. You can certainly use the back of your sheet here. What I want to do is I want you guys to write out the commercial that you already have prepared that you deliver when somebody says, hey Karen, you're really nice, I appreciate it, put me back on your calendar and call me back in 6 months. And as that phone is about to hang up and hit the cradle of the handset, what are you going to say in response to that individual? What are you going to say that's going to keep them on the phone for another couple of minutes? What are you going to share with them about your firm, about your capabilities, about your background, about your track record? What are you going to say to them to keep them on the phone and open up into a dialogue for maybe just 1 other minute, but at least they're not hanging up on you? I'm going to pause for just a second. I want you guys to go ahead and start writing down. I'll give you maybe 3 or 4 minutes to write this out. To give you some context, this probably should be 30 seconds or less, maybe a minute. Go ahead and start writing down what it is that you say when a candidate tries to get you off the phone prematurely. you guys another minute, and you're going to share what the person is.
Are you a little similar? Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying.
What?
But I know, so ideally, you know, if we were to, you know, do violence and we do, you know, what would you tell me, what would you do?
Actually, it would be like, so if something came across my desk, that's far superior to what you're doing right now, would you want to hear about it? What's yours?
I was basically, I understand that you're not an active search. However, we both know that, you know, there's always a possibility of something coming up in the future. And it's always good to somebody that you can refer back to in that situation.
All right, go ahead and find one person sitting next to you guys, just partner up. And I want to take probably 2 minutes for one person to share their commercial, and then 2 minutes for the other person to share their commercial back. Hopefully I have lots of you guys with me so far. You understand what I'm saying? One person delivers their commercial, the other person delivers their commercial, and then I'm going to ask for some feedback from the group. So go ahead and find one other person, and go ahead.
What you guys say? Yeah, we talk to people that have been posted.
Yeah, we try to stay away from people that are posted. Not to say that you guys aren't, but I target specifically people that are working. Yeah, because usually the people that are working are usually the ones that are good. And so, but so mine was. So what you're saying is there's something far superior to what you're doing now comes across my desk. Would you want to hear about it? And if they can say no, usually they're kind of a jerk anyway, but...
I mean, I talk to people who are currently, maybe they probably come to the right manager or something like that, and they may be kind of like working, but they show their resume.
Yeah. And we still talk to them too, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you could say...
But that's as far as I, you know, that's as far as we take it, so we don't really...
Yeah, we usually talk to people, and if they're like, no, I'm not open, I'm not interested in anything, you say, well, listen, you know, the market's always moving, it's always shifting, it's always good to have someone out there, there's a set of eyes and ears looking for you, even if you're not looking to do something that maybe potentially interesting. So, or you tell them, or you do something similar like what she said, you say, well, listen, you know, people tend to be broken down into these categories. You're going to retire with the company they're in right now. They're going to be actively looking, they're actively looking
for some reason it's on a self-timer, so it keeps going and going and going. I could fix it, but I'm afraid if I don't fix it at the time.
Workers, you guys, I apologize, I'm probably
We do a lot of light industrial and industrial.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're having, I mean, my house, I'm manufacturing.
Okay, all right, let's group back together. Back with me, back with me, back with me. I would love to get a couple of volunteers who heard a great commercial. Anybody hear anything that stood out to them? Yes, over here, somebody has something that stood out to them.
I'm on you, right away.
Michelle?
Okay.
Michelle, would you mind, sharing with us?
So I said, aren't you curious as to why I called you? You are the first person I called when I was this job request.
Great. Did you guys hear that? Curious as to why I called you. You are the first person I called when I got this job order, when I received this request. Perfect. Who else had something that stood out to them that they heard? Yeah? No? Oh, tracking. You heard nothing that stood out to you. Good. Good feedback. Good feedback. Good. What else? Go ahead.
For our changes, both of us had credibility lines through the company. Yours was for years. I've been in the industry since 1976, and why I was wanting, I need your help today. I have an unbelievable opportunity that leads to growth, and if I can find a different time, just like down in Denver hours between 7 o'clock and 8:30. Okay? And my credibility line was saying, why you be pharmaceutical R&D, but you used to 15 years in the industry, the living industry, just understand why. How then your schedule could be there, but it's not going to talk tomorrow.
Good. Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
That's right. Right before they're hanging up and it's going down, I'm like, so what you're saying is something far superior to what you're doing right this moment comes across my desk. You wouldn't be open to hearing about it, no matter what it is? And then I just open it up from there.
We're not in recruiting, but we do a pre-employment background screen. City of Inglewood, so we're a more complete pre-employment screening that kept you from having to fire that last employee.
Yeah. A little bit of a pattern or a question, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well, one thing I try to do is, and just throw this out, is that try to establish credibility, and two, establish a relationship like time to instead of later conversation. Because the person says, no, I'm not really interested. Hey, that's great, most people I know and talk with aren't interested in moving either. That's great, but they do want to hear what's happening in the industry, and I think that I am an expert in your industry. Would you want to receive a call? Can we maybe touch base once a month or so for a period of time so I can fill you in what's going on? Usually, everybody wants to know what's going on. So they say, yeah, come back and give me a call back, and then that's the way to start establishing a relationship.
It's a great segue into what it was that I was going to ask you guys next, which is what is it, let's take a step back for just 1 second. What is it that's important to your candidates?
Them. Themselves.
Yeah. Right? What about themselves?
What they're looking for.
So they're their own favorite subject, right? We know that's the best way to get somebody to start talking about themselves is to ask them about themselves. What else? What else is important to them?
Making their job easier.
How so?
If the product or service that I'm providing them takes some of their workload off of them, and they can be more comfortable doing other things.
Right? Yeah.
I was going to say, I think a lot of times they're safety, and this is pushing them outside of their comfort zone with that.
Yeah, safety and security, what else?
People like us, we could possibly help them. I have a lot of resumes of people who are looking very good.
Expand on that and tell me, help them do what? We can help them do what?
Stay connected with people like us who could potentially help them if they see things down the road. I have a lot of resumes that are marked as not basically. They want me to have it, they want me to know about them, but they don't want me out there. In a resume, they don't want to call them the job. They just want to email them or something.
Yeah.
Because they're very concerned about that.
Yeah. What else?
One of the things that I'm hearing a lot, and I'm sure everybody in the street is hearing, I'm working in a very big firm locally on the U.S. And, generally, when we're doing a job change right now, I know you are not to take that. So there's 5 reasons why I was getting the conversation, but I try to list 5 reasons why I'm going to the firm. And then, when you're going to lay off, you're not going to be so, you're not representing a client like that. I can usually say, I walk in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. What else is important to your candidates?
I think you ease into it. I think if you take a genuine interest in them before you start with the job offer, sometimes we're too gregarious to say, hey, here's what I've got. But if you can establish a conversation and say, hey, I know blah, 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 and I just wanted to touch base with you. I'm a recruiter from, and these are the types of industries, and leave a little bit. Don't give away the farm initially. Give them some compelling reasons to don't.
I was just going to say, even, many candidates, even if they're not interested in making a change, they are interested in staying abreast and better understanding their marketability.
Yeah, and that really gets down to what my point is around this exercise, is that a few things. One is to recognize that those same candidates who are telling me, or telling you, no, not interested, I'm happy, how many times have you ever gotten off the phone with that candidate, called back a few months later, and they're gone? They're no longer at the company. And then to add insult to injury, you find out later that they went somewhere through a recruiter, right? So we kind of comfort ourselves with just strength in numbers, law of averages, that's one more no, I'm closer to a yes. But what if there's some things that we can say that will help us earn the right to have those conversations with those candidates who are a little bit harder to recruit? And I think one of the biggest things that when it comes down to herding cats and trying to control the way that the conversation goes is that sometimes we're talking the wrong language to the cat. We're talking about a dog language versus a cat language. And what I mean by that is that we continue to talk about why we want to talk to them, or why we have a client that we're going to tell them about, or why we feel as though there's some value in having a relationship with someone like us, versus backing up and thinking about universally what matters to your candidate. Stability, security, providing for their family. Sure, they want you as a safety net if they get fired. They want to be able to call you. But there's several other things that we can do that we can educate our candidates on as to the value that they can find by networking with somebody like us. So what I want to share with you guys are 3 specific commercials that we'll go through. And the irony for me in this is that we've all had those candidates who hang up the phone. And we get off the phone, and we don't take the time to script out something like this that we can deliver the next time that we find ourselves in this situation. So it's funny for me when we do these exercises, that one, there always is somebody who, when we start to have to do this stuff, somebody gets up and leaves. So that's a joke that Rob and I always have whenever we start to do the breakouts. There's more than you just sitting and listening. There's always the person who's like, oh, okay, gotta take this candidate call. So that's one. Two, is that if we know the situation is going to be something that we're encountering, why are we not 100% prepared for that situation? When we talk about recruiting those candidates that your clients cannot get on their own, there is no better group of candidates that they can't get on their own than the ones that won't talk to every single recruiter who calls them because they're in that 13% or they're in that 70%. So I want to go through a couple of examples, again, that you guys can use as a platform to create your own, because of course the three that we're going to go through aren't universally applicable to every style, every industry, every individual, but I want to give you some context as to what we're talking about. This one says, I understand that you're currently set where you are, and your career is not fit right now. However, even if you never get critically ill, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a solid family physician. In that regard, our team has been recruiting in your backyard for X number of years, and I do nothing but talk to your peers all day long, 20 each day, 100 a week, 5,000 a year. Why does that matter to you? You can absolutely use me as a resource, even if you never leave your organization. I can tell you what you should be making, what your competition is doing to land their top accounts, and how to stay viable within your firm, just to name a few. So there's a couple of things that are specifically put into this presentation. One is that you've inserted some metrics, which differentiate I really get to know my candidates. When that recruiter says, I really get to know my candidates, and you say, I really get to know my candidates, in fact, I get to know 20 each day, 100 a week, and 5,000 a year. Again, you're just backing it up with a proof statement. Second, I think the critical statement in there is, why does that matter to you? Because what a candidate interprets when you say, I've talked to all of these people, aren't necessarily all of these benefits down here. So it's almost like I want you to follow the bouncing ball exactly in the places that I'm going to bounce it, so that you know where I'm going with this and you know what I can provide for you. But recognize it's not saying, I want to keep in touch with you because, I might have something down the road. You never know how things might change. You never know if something will change within your current firm. I'm sure that, even over the last couple of years, you've seen that things change even when we know that they're going to. So again, we're just breaking down in terms of what's important to them, keeping in mind that most candidates probably want to know what they should be making, how to become better at what it is that they're doing, and how to stay viable within their firm, within their organization. So that's one example, and thanks so much. Second example, I'd like to share with you something that would be important for me to know if I were you. My team placed X number of individuals in the past time frame in your specialty. X% of what I do is with repeat clients, which means that they not only value me, but share with me strategic hiring needs that they do not share with others. The average tenure is this number of years, but why does that matter to you? Quite simply put, I know everything about my clients, and I know what's critically important to my candidates. Even if you aren't ready to make a move now, I can almost guarantee that one day that might change. Even if you never go to work for one of my clients, I'm confident that I can give you insights and information that will make you more savvy, educated, and prepared for that process. It's not the candidates with the best resumes that get the best offers, it's those who interview the best. Unless you're 100% confident that you will retire where you are, there's value in not spending 10 minutes together that now are on your commute home. Again, that might be a little bit strong for your style. You might feel like, well, that's a little bit in your face. But those candidates who are truly happy and set and good and content where they are probably not going to respond to anything but something that's strong and is confident. They're going to talk with those recruiters who come across with that kind of delivery and style. So again, recognize just not only having the good script that you've taken the time to back up and think about and put in terms of what's in it for them, but it's also how you're going to say it. So there's a difference between how I just read that and, well, I guess what I'd like to share with you is something that I don't know, I think would probably be important for me to know if I were you, right? So part of it is what you're going to say, and part of it is how you say it. It's okay if this seems a little bit strong for you. Your candidates are never going to treat you differently than you see yourself. So if you see yourself not worthy of talking with these harder to recruit candidates, they're not going to talk to you. And if you see yourself as someone who can't really put together this confident of a presentation, then that's probably going to come through on its own as well. So again, that's the second example. And our third example actually comes from the Nathan Haynes episode that I referenced. So Nathan, when he was going into a client meeting, and that client would say, we have, a couple of other search firms that we're talking to, we're really going through this, shortlist process, and we'll get back with you. Nathan would say, that's absolutely fine. When you're talking to those other firms, I want you to ask them 3 questions. The first question I want you to ask them is how many candidates are within this marketplace that can do what it is that they're looking to do. And if the answer isn't 700 or in thereabouts, that recruiter is not somebody who knows the space like I do. Second thing I want you to ask them is, do they know the difference between this technical term and that technical term? And if they can't answer that for you, then they probably can't screen people the way that they need to be screened. And the third question I want you to ask them is, where are the top 5 companies that you're going to go to look for this individual? And if their answers aren't this, and this, then that's again somebody that you shouldn't be talking to either. So go ahead and look at all of those other recruiters, but do me a favor and ask them those 3 questions, and then come back to me and let me know what we're left with, because I'm the best in this space, as we were talking about before. And so the catch is that you can't throw this out there if you don't you yourself know the answers to these questions. So again, it might push you a little bit more. I know that you get calls from lots of recruiters, and you can hang up on nearly all of them. They haven't got a clue as to the difference between this and this. They've never set foot in one of their client offices, much less toured each of their facilities, and they wouldn't be able to give you competitive insights garnered from your top 5 competitors like this. However, I can, and I'm asking for 10 minutes to share with you why I'm not the recruiter to hang up on. If at the end of this call you haven't felt it was a good use of your time, tell me, and I won't call you again. That said, would you prefer to talk this evening, or can you speak confidentially from the office right now? So again, these are just 3 examples that you guys can use to build on whatever it is that you're going to script out that you can use before that person hangs up the phone. And the key here really is that pattern interrupt, right? You guys probably know pattern interrupt, as it has to do with getting through gatekeepers and answering a question with a question. There's a great sales speaker named Frank Kern. Has anybody ever heard of Frank? Frank does all of the little speaking conferences, like with Rudy Giuliani and, you know, those groups that go around and do all of those different conferences. But when Frank takes the stage, he comes out in a Viking helmet, and his hair is all wet, and he's wearing like a sports shirt, flip-flops, and, you know, he's cursing like a sailor. And that's instantly interrupting people's patterns, what they thought a professional sales speaker was supposed to look like. So Frank now has engaged everybody back in from that, you know, post-lunch seminar lull. We'll let everyone just kind of take a note and try and figure out how much time until we can have the next break for the dessert, and then the next break where there's kegs out on the beach. But again, when Frank comes and takes the stage, it's that pattern interrupt that gets people's attention, no different than these are going to catch people's attention. The end result is that if Frank doesn't have any content, or if Frank doesn't have any true substance to lend to that presentation, people are probably going to go back to their post-lunch high. So of course, when you have these kind of conversations where then you say, if at the end of these 10 minutes you don't feel like it was a good use of your time, you better make sure that the next 10 minutes are a good use of your time. Otherwise, you earning the right to that conversation is now ending you earning the right to have any future conversations. So again, compelling commercials. Any questions here? The big takeaway is talk in terms of what's important to them, not you. What can you help them do? What can partnering with you do that partnering with other recruiters won't do? Certainly, if you've got a track record like you guys were talking about it, use that track record, but then expand that in terms of why having someone in their corner with a track record like that is going to be more valuable than having someone who doesn't have that track record in their corner. Okay. Our next strategy is elevating your conversations, and I think that this is a great quote here, and people can offer you answers. It takes a real genius to ask the right question. The gist of this next technique is that if you ask the same questions that other recruiters are asking, you're going to get the same answers. You can go to the same one. So if you ask the same questions that other recruiters are asking, you're going to get the same answer. When I walk into Nordstrom and the sales associate comes up to me and says, "Can I help you with anything today?" What do I say? No thanks, I'm just looking. Why? Why? Because I won't be alone. Why else? Really, why is that?
Such a
Is it
condition
trying to sell me? Right, they're going to try to sell me something that I don't trust them. It all comes down to the fact that I don't trust them, right? They're not my personal shopper. They have no idea who I am. They have no idea what my style is. They have no idea what my likes are. They're going to probably try to sell me the more expensive items. Of course, conveniently, the steak that your waiter recommends is the most expensive steak on the menu, as opposed to saying that you really don't need that one. In that same context, that's why I'm not going to allow this Nordstrom person to take me on a tour of all the things that she thinks that I should buy. Even if I'm going in there, literally with a gift card, I'm going to a party that night, and I need a new outfit, I'm going to be spending money. My mindset is I would rather try to find something for myself first, and if I get desperate, then fine, I'm going to go for this last-ditch effort of trying to have you help me. In that same vein, when you ask your candidates, what are you happy with? Or what would you consider a change for? This is your skills are going to be put to the test now. Right. So when you, this thing down here. That, yeah. Good thing you're gonna have to, yep. What's your name, Jared?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Jared. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for sitting there and being somebody who knows how to click back and forth. Okay, so when you ask your candidates, what are you happy with? Or when you ask them, what would it take in order for you to consider making a change? You're going to get the same answers that all of the other recruiters have asked them, that they've given to other recruiters. And it's probably that kind of knee-jerk prepared answer that they've given to everybody else that they haven't put a lot of thought into. So what I want to encourage you guys to do is elevate the questions that you're asking. And on this next slide, you'll see some examples. I want to encourage you to ask some questions that have your candidates pause and really think through things a little. We have the tendency, all of us do as well, to kind of go through our days on autopilot, right? You wake up, you know where you're supposed to go, you know what you're supposed to do that day, you know what you need to get done before you leave. You then go through the motions of the commute home, put the kids to bed, follow up on emails, go back to bed, and you kind of continue to go through life on autopilot. And what I want to encourage you to do is start to ask some questions to your candidates that are going to pull them out of that autopilot zone or those knee-jerk reaction responses and answers that they're giving to every single other candidate. So if you ask them, when you're venting to your spouse after work or you guys at happy hour, what are you typically frustrated with? Are there recurring events that never seem to change? What would you replicate from previous companies or departments in which you've worked? All of these are kind of the same way of saying, what are you happy with, what would you change? But you're having them think about things in a different lens, and you can effectively guide a person's thought process by asking the right questions. So you can lead someone to where it is that you want them to go by asking questions that get them there. When you ask these questions, I want you to recognize that what you might be met with is silence on the other end of the phone. Not because they're not interested, not because they're bored with the conversation, but because you're asking them something that they haven't thought about in a while, or that they haven't had their knee-jerk reaction response prepared to give to you and every other recruiter who calls. So again, the value of asking these questions is that it is going to elevate your conversations, and it's going to maybe help your candidates know that they don't know what it is that they don't know. So what if what they think is a 10 is really a 7? What if they take they ride a horse to work? This is a little bit of a random analogy, but go with me. Let's say that you've got a candidate who rides a horse to work every day. Outside of the fact that I probably would have some concerns as to who this candidate is, and if I wanted to attach my name to him, he gets to work every day effectively on the horse, right? It's not a bad mode of transportation. What if he doesn't know that the car has been invented? Again, they're getting to the same place both ways, but the car will keep you dry, the car can get you there a little bit faster, the car keeps you dry when it's raining outside. So again, sometimes your candidates don't know what it is that they don't know, and what they think is an okay or a good situation could certainly be improved, but you've got to ask the right questions to open the doors for those kind of conversations. So on the next few slides, again, you guys see a long list of questions. I'm not going to go through all of these because you can go through them, but I would encourage you to highlight a couple, when you get back to the office, highlight a couple that you want to put up on your screens around you, on your office walls around you, because although all of these are great questions, not all of them will sound like all of you. So identify those couple of questions that fit you or fit your style or fit your audience. And again, just go ahead and work some of those into your conversations. And what you might find is that when you ask those questions and have that silence on the other end of the phone, you yourself can stop talking as well and be okay with giving your candidates the opportunity to process this information. We're kind of uncomfortable with silence, so you might find that you'll ask, would you describe your boss as more of a leader or more of a manager? And it's quiet for just a second, and so you say, I don't know. I'm sure that he's a nice guy, and I'm sure that you guys get along really well, but if you think about more like, is he more of a manager, is he more of a leader? It's okay if on the other end of the line, they're thinking about what it is that you just said, because again, you probably caught them off guard, not because these questions are weird or random or shock factor oriented, but because you're asking them things that other recruiters have not. This is a section of questions that are probably all oriented around what they're happy with and what they're not